What's good, everybody, and welcome to an episode of the Amatilakatias podcast with your host, yours truly. Yes, I'm back, Jai Shields, here on this Monday, June the 9th, the year 2020. We got a busy show for you today. You take one show off, and all of a sudden, you got enough show material to last you 3 hours. Obviously, we have the NBA Finals, games 1 and 2 in the books, in between games 2 and 3, as the series will shift eastward from OKC to Indianapolis, Indiana, for games 4 and 5 later on this week on Wednesday and on Friday night. Coming up on the back end of this week, obviously, regarding the NBA, the last time we talked, it was about the New York Knicks and their season coming to an end and what the Knicks were going to do in terms of the future of their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. Less than 24 hours after that pod went up, Tom Thibodeau went out the door. I give you my 2 cents, my reaction on that, and who I think the New York Knicks should hire to be their next head coach heading into the 25-26 season. Some baseball stuff. The Braves and the Phillies are in free fall in the National League East. Yankees can't get out of their own way, losing back-to-back weekend series to rivals they just have no business losing to. The Dodgers, obviously, their former cross-country rival, way back when, obviously lost to them in the World Series last year. The Red Sox came to the Bronx for the first time this season, lost 2 out of 3 to them last night and on Saturday night. So the Yankees losing a back-to-back weekend series against two teams that, if you wear Yankee pinstripes, you better find a way to beat. Some National Football League stuff to get to. Aaron Rodgers is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. So we got lots to do, lots in store for you here on today's show. Anyway, let us begin with, you know what? Let's do something different. Game 2 of the NBA Finals wasn't that all enticing and entertaining. Baseball, Thibodeau happened a while ago. Let's do something different. And I know it's June and I don't like to do it, but what the hell? Let's lead with the Pittsburgh Steelers for a change. But before I get to that, do a quick little mini recap. Be very short and as swift and as quick as I can regarding my excursion to Ocean City, Maryland over the weekend for the 2024-2025 Chesapeake AP Broadcasters Convention. First off, let me show you their certificate that I have first. My first impressions of Ocean City, because I'd never been there before, I wasn't all that impressed by it, to be honest with you. It feels a little bit of like a not older city in terms of like the people that's there, but older city in terms of the infrastructure, with the hotels and just like the overall, like you can walk into a city or a town or whatever, and you can kind of feel if it's, and tell obviously visually, if the buildings surrounding the area that make up the area is well updated and it's modern and it's fresh and everything else. With that, it kind of felt like you were taking a time machine back to, like, I don't know, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 years ago. The hotels there are very, very old on the out. Now, the one I stayed at inside, it was up to date for the most part in terms of how it looked inside, but on the outside, the hotel that I stayed at, along with the long line, because and it's like this for the majority of the beaches you'll see. I don't know how it is on the West Coast, but on the Eastern Seaboard, I know it's like this, where you'll get to the beach and there literally will be blocks upon blocks upon blocks spanning miles of hotels literally stacked up and down the street. Like you turn to your left or turn to your right, and everywhere you look, it's nothing but hotels. And from the outside, it looked like, these hotels were built, when my father was a kid. I mean, these hotels were built like in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. I mean, oh my God, did it look outdated. And be it my luck, I go to Ocean City where it essentially rained 95% of the weekend, so I didn't even have an opportunity to go on the beach. That was the only time I was out in terms of being outside of my hotel was, at restaurants and places like that. But I mean, that's the downside of going to like those towns and / those cities that are that are essentially built around the beach, where the beach is the main attraction. The problem is you don't have an opportunity to go to the beach. It's kind of like you're like on it's like being on a cruise ship, except it's you're on the mainland, but you have nothing else to do in terms of extracurricular activities. Excuse me. I don't want to go to any goofy mini golf places. I had no interest in that. I had no interest in going mini golf. On top of that, the places that had open mini golf businesses, they had it outside. So if we're not going to go to the beach because it's raining outside, what in the hell makes me think I'm going to go mini golfing outside too? So it was underwhelming. Wasn't I think one of Virginia Beach, which I went to last June on Father's Day weekend around this time last year, is a complete dump. I wouldn't go there I wouldn't go there again if you paid me. Ocean City, it's not as good. Now I understand Norfolk's not it's not a beach city per se, but I wouldn't classify it better than I haven't been to I haven't been to the Outer Banks since I literally was like a year. I was a newborn last time I went to the Outer Banks, so I have no recollection. I've never been to the beaches in Chicago. I never been to Miami Beach, South Beach. Never been there. Been to Sandy Point, which is a nice beach. I went to Rehoboth Beach. Rehoboth Beach is real nice. I think that one out of the ones I've been to is the gold standard in terms of beaches along the East Coast, as far as I'm concerned. But Ocean City, it's underwhelming. It's for what it's worth. It's unless you are there to strictly go to the beach and to be out there on that beach. I mean, you could take it or leave it. You could take it or leave it. I mean, for the drive that it was, about 3 hours and about 15 minutes, no traffic. It can be as long as 3 hours and 40 something minutes to 4 hours, including traffic. You have to essentially drive through the countryside of Delaware and the countryside of Maryland and cross the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, not the Francis Scott Key Bridge that collapsed, but the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, and drive through where, Columbia, Severna Park, BWI area in Southern Maryland. It's you didn't really, in my eyes, I don't think it was. I'm just talking about the city itself. If they said, we want to, if I'm ever fortunate enough to get nominated for this again and they invite me back, I had to say so on where I think they should hold it, I would say I think they would have a better atmosphere hosting it at some luxurious, 5-star hotel downtown in Baltimore somewhere. In downtown Baltimore, if you want to make us the sojourn down in Norfolk, Virginia, I got no problem going down to Norfolk either. You want to host it in Chesapeake Beach. That's a beach I went to last June also, which is a very nice beach and just a nice, neighborhood, residential area, which is, I mean, first time going there last June, I couldn't believe how gorgeous it was. So if you want to host it there, want to host it in Norfolk, fine. Want to host it in downtown at a nice at the Sagamore Pendry Hotel where Mad Dog stayed for you, I got no problem with it. But Ocean City, and in terms of the hotel, average for what, $250 something a night. I mean, it was average. Not one of the worst hotels I've stayed in, but not one of the better ones, I say. Those hotel that I stayed at in January of 2024 when we had a bad winter storm that came through and knocked our power out for a few days. That's about a hop, skip, and a jump from where I live. That houses the Ravens road opponents for their home games during the football season. That hotel head and shoulders better than the one that I stayed at on the beach. Head and shoulders better. I mean, from the just the design of the hotel on the inside, you feel like, it's up to date in terms of you not staying in like an old folks home, but it certainly could use some remodeling in terms of the rooms are concerned. The TV was hard to navigate. You click the TV on, and then the guide essentially will scroll up and down like this, but you can't like control like a regular remote control. Okay, up, down, down. Okay, what's this channel? Oh, what's that channel? And then you have like no once that guide goes away and you pick or change channel to whatever it is you want to watch, you have no reference point to say, okay, well, what channel? I saw that they get ESPN. What's ESPN? They didn't have the NFL in the NFL. They didn't have MLB Network on there, which was a problem because if push come to shove, I just wanted to see whatever was on MLB Network when I was in the hotel room. So the TV could have been better. The Marriott I stayed at, or the two Marriotts I've stayed at, the one a few Januaries ago, and then the one I stayed at in Norfolk last year, they're smart TVs. They at least, have YouTube and the few of the streaming apps on it, which is a major positive. The gym wasn't bad. The only problem is that on Friday night, so I get from the crab feast with a few of the nominees and the people that were there from the AP board on Friday night. So I leave the crab house at about 10:30, if that. So I leave there and I go back to the hotel and I'm saying, okay, well, before I basically turn it in for the night, I want to find out two places. I want to find out where the gym is so I can get at least 2 workouts in while I'm here. Sometime Saturday before the banquet, and then Sunday morning before I go. So let me find where the gym is, and they also let us know that they had like a little special hospitality suite for us, where essentially it was a public hotel room. It was a public hotel room that had snacks and drinks and all that other stuff. So let me find where that is, and also let me find where the gym is. I found where the hospitality suite was in like 10 minutes. Walked in, they had Miller Lite beer. They had, I think, Doghead IPAs, which I cannot stand IPAs. They are absolutely disgusting. So I settled for the Miller Lights. They also, popcorn, potato chips, everything else. So I found that without breaking a sweat. The only problem is that I had to find one of my professional compadres that had the key card on them so I can get into the damn thing. And then, okay, so I found that. Now I got to go on this wild goose chase for me to find the gym. So first floor, I go down, first floor, you walk in, your sliding door, you turn to your left, there's the check-in, check-out front desk. You turn to your right, there's a stairwell, and then like a waiting area with the luggage carts and everything else. So, and then you walk dead ahead, and then, you turn to your left. There's like a little business offices you can use, and you turn to your right, and then dead ahead, it says, only hotel personnel, past this point. So, and then before you get there, obviously you have that little walkway where the elevators are. So I'm saying, how in the hell do I get to the gym? So I'm looking at all the signage, and it's like it's on the first floor of the hotel. So I'm like, well, at the first floor of the hotel, like there's nowhere. Like I'm at the first floor of the hotel is not that, like the first floor of the hotel is so small that there's no rooms on the first floor. That's how small it is, which also goes back to my original point of the hotel being outdated, at least so I presume. I'm like, well, wait, what? I mean, I'm at the first floor, and it's a little bit bigger than my room. It's about the size of this room and about a quarter of the hallway when I walk outside. I mean, it's not that big of a first floor. So I'm going all up and down the elevator. I'm saying, well, let me click the T button. I guess T stood for like terrorist or something. So let me click the T button on the elevator. So it takes me up. I walk out and I see, dead ahead, there's like a designated, party type restaurant, little area for, I guess, people to hold celebratory, dinner parties or whatever. I look to the right, they have, they have like your airport, top style, gift shop with snacks and, and drinks you can buy and, energy drinks, Gatorade, water, beer, all that other sort of stuff. And then I'm looking all around. I was like, I don't see no sign of a gym near here. So I'm going up every. I think they had the maximum was 16 floors in that hotel. So I'm literally going up every single floor. And then once I got past the floor where the suite was, I stayed on the 8th floor. The hospitality suite was on the 14th floor. Once I got past that, I said, "Well, shit, the rest of this hotel is not, obviously going to be nothing but rooms. So why am I wasting my time?" So I'm going up and down, up and down, up and down. And then I see there's like a part of the hotel that's like an extension of it, but it's not directly correlated with like the main body of the hotel. So it's got like two entrances, so to speak. So I said, well, let me go into the second entrance and see if the gym is there. So I go in, and then immediately right there, you bam, front, right inside of the front doors, you see the ballroom, which is where my banquet that Saturday night was going to take place. And you got the seating chart of who's sitting where and all the different broadcasting companies incorporated everything. So okay, so all right, cool. So I know where that is. I was not out there on a mission to find out where it is my thing was going to take place, but I found it by accident. Cool, great. I still got to find where this damn gym is. So I go upstairs and I say, well, let me see if the gym is up there. But I'm walking up the steps, and all of a sudden I hear a noise of like people talking. And the more I climb up the stairs, the louder. No, I didn't take the stairs. I took the elevator. So I took the elevator. I get us okay. So it's only got like 3-4 levels. So I said, well, let me go level number 2. Level number 2, door opens up, and there's a crowd full of people there. And I'm not talking about my fair skinned fellow Americans. So and I went to an all white school, so that shit doesn't bother me. But it's nighttime. I'm the 6'3" black man. Donald Trump's America. You kind of have to walk a little bit on eggshells in certain moments and in certain situations. So I'm walking all around, and it was I think it was a wedding rehearsal, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm walking around trying to find where this damn. I look around the corner, nothing there, and I just see nothing but separate ballrooms. I'm looking, there's the restaurants. So I still can't find this damn. I still can't find this damn gym. So I said, all right, well, let me walk through the crowd of people one more time. Get on the elevator, click. Okay, is it on the third level? Third level, I get up, door opens, nothing but spare chairs and desks and tables, and there's nobody up here. So I'm like, all right, well, shit, I still can't find. I've been at this for like 35, 40 minutes because when I got back to the hotel room, my dad went with me on a trip. I said, all right, Dad, I'm back. Let me go just scout out and case out the joint and see, what's doing, where the gym is, and I'll be right back. Hop in the shower. We had a long day, long travel, and we're going to go to bed, shut it down for the night. So, and I said that with the intention of me being gone for like no more than like 10, 15 minutes. I mean, what was I going to do? 10, 15 minutes, and then by some miracle, maybe you see a girl, whatever. It's just so I'm outside the hotel room for my and our hotel room for about a half hour to 35, 40 something minutes. And I still haven't found this damn hotel or this hotel gym yet. Meanwhile, I'm looking at my watch. The Orioles game's already started. The Mets can't get out of their own way at this moment in time because they can't get any hits with runners in score position against the Colorado Rockies. And I'm like, what? And I said, come on, I want to shower, get into bed, watch a little bit of baseball, and go to sleep. So I'm looking all over the place trying to find this gym. I say, you know what? It's after 11 o'clock, going on 11:30, if not later than that. I say, to hell with it. I'm going to bed. So I go to bed. I'm in bed. I'm sleeping. I wake up at about 10:40-ish. Dad walks in, has his workout stuff on. Dad, where'd you just come from? Oh, I came from the gym, worked out. Where is it? I've been trying to find this damn gym since we got here. Where's the gym? You gotta go down. You gotta go downstairs. You gotta walk out the lobby and loop around to the right hand side of the hotel check-in entrance, and you'll see there's another extension on that side. They got a restaurant that's on the top floor, the gym right there, second floor. So what do? Now we went out and got breakfast like a third of a mile up the road and essentially got rained on. We left the house. It was like, left the hotel. It was mostly sunny. I saw in the forecast it was going to be threat of rain, but I was like, it's not going to rain on us while we're out. So we're sitting outside. Dad's parking the car. I go up, table for two for us to eat. Have father and son brunch outside. He says, well, I choose to sit outside because, hey, it's a nice day. We're at the beach. We sit inside when we eat all the time. So, because I had to go to my thing that was only private to, the people that were there for the convention. My dad had dinner by himself Friday night. I had dinner by myself, not by myself, but away from him on Friday. So it's an opportunity for us to eat together for the first time since we got to Ocean City. And so I said, let's eat outside. Nice day, sun is out. Why not soak up some sun? The summer season, it hasn't officially started yet. Technically, we're still in the spring season, but hey, let's eat breakfast outside. So we're sitting there, we're talking, and we're waiting on our food. And slowly but surely, the dark clouds start rolling in. And we still haven't gotten our food yet. My dad ordered like a Grand Slam breakfast. I ordered blueberry and banana pancakes with linked sausage. So we're sitting there, we still haven't gotten our food yet, which wasn't an issue. But, we're sitting here outside. We haven't eaten yet. And all of a sudden, one raindrop, two raindrops. And it's like, oh, hell, here we go. So it's going to start raining and we haven't gotten our food yet. So, and luckily, the party that was sitting to the left, my dad's right, my left, was sitting to the left of us at like this picnic table that was underneath the canopy. So we're sitting outside, but we're obviously exposed to the sky and the sun and everything else. But the party that was sitting to the left of us was sitting underneath the canopy that had an umbrella, so they were protected from any elements or whatever. So we move over underneath the canopy and the umbrella before it starts raining. As we're finishing up eating, I'm having my cranberry mimosa, getting the check, everything else. The dark clouds continue to roll in, and the sky is getting darker and darker. And now, when I walked out of the hotel, I had my sunglasses on because when it's that mostly cloudy with sunshine and the clouds are bright white, the sky, it's like staring in. It's like me making direct contact with this LED light in front of me. That's how, obviously that's how bright it can be. By the time we got finished eating, I took my sunglasses off, and it was no need for them. It went from this bright to like that, if you can make sense of that. That's how quick the clouds started rolling in. So we're finishing up, and next thing you know, and the place closed at 1 p.m. So at about 1:10, give or take, they were gracious. Service was phenomenal. The food was great. Layton's on 92nd. I give him a free plug in case anyone from that restaurant by any chance is listening, or in case this ever gets back to them. They couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been great. Food was phenomenal. So we're the only customers still sitting, quote unquote, inside the restaurant. And all of a sudden, you guys that live here out on the East Coast, 1, 2, 3, and literally was raining. Matter of fact, where's my phone? I'll show you video of it. Literally was raining buckets. Not for like a little 5-minute period. I'm talking about consistently for 25 minutes to about a half hour. Literally, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I put it on my Instagram story. This is literally what it was. I mean, it was a monsoon, So much so where we're driving back to the hotel room, and literally the other side of the street that we ended up driving on was flooded. Not, not anything dangerous, anything crazy, but it was like we were wakeboarding on our way back to the hotel room. There was so much rain on the street. So I say all that to say, getting back to my original story, me trying to find this damn gym. We finally get back. I said, okay, I wanted to work out, get a nice workout in, whatever. So I look nice and all cut up in my navy blue Calvin Klein suit. All right, so I'm gonna go find a gym, get changed, whatever. Boom, boom, boom. Go and find this hotel. Excuse me, go find the hotel gym. And my dad tells me where it is. I'm like, okay, all right. So I gotta go here. Go to the front desk just for extra. It never hurts to ask, to ask again if you're unsure of anything. It never, ever, 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 ever hurts to ask. So I asked the front desk, where's the gym? They go ahead, point it. Okay, fine. So you gotta walk outside. You gotta walk outside to go to the hotel gym. So you got to walk outside around the main check-in entrance to the restaurant wing of the hotel. You walk in, and the hotel restaurant is upstairs. The gym is downstairs. Open up a door, open up another door, and it's like the gym is like in hiding somewhere. It low-key reminded me of my grandmother's old basement in a house that she lived at when I was a little kid growing up, in terms of like how secluded it was and like the homey nature of it. I mean, there was like no hardwood, no laminate, no carpet. The entire floor was like quote unquote carpet of like those, like those foam big puzzle piece type things. 2 treadmills, free weights, punching bag, and then they also had the, like the big resistance band machine. So I found that, worked out. It was cool. And then the convention that night, I'm dressed. Because they said it wasn't, I forget what specific, they didn't say black tie. I think it was like semi-formal or whatever, but it didn't say black tie. If it was black tie, whatever, I would have worn a tie or rented a tux. But because it didn't say black tie, I said, you know what? It's Ocean City. I don't really want to wear a tie if I don't have to. I'll wear my suit, but I'll wear like my Eddie Bauer white t-shirt, obviously my dress shoes, and call it a day. So I go down, I walk in the door about like 6:02. They have the Belmont steaks on. And it was nice. I mean, they had people walking around with the with the hors d'oeuvres on the silver tray like this. I'm resisting everything because it's like, hey, I just worked out. I don't want to, basically pack on the pounds. I just essentially ran 3.87 miles off. And then I'm also wearing a white t-shirt, and I don't want to eat anything that can even flirt with the idea of getting on my clothes. So I'll have a few drinks, whatever. One of my guys from WEAA was there, along with he's an audio engineer, and he was there with his radio host that hosts one of our news and political shows that was also there and nominated and won. So congratulations, shout out to them. So they're all there. People I met at the crab feast yesterday or the night before that, Friday night. They had it was nice. It had a nice long assembly lines worth of tables. They're bringing crabs in. They're bringing in hush puppies. They're bringing in corn and everything. I'm talking, introduce myself to different people. I meet the director and the head of the whole thing with the Associated Press, by the name of Heidi Brown. So I'm meeting her for the first time, and I'm talking, different, conversing, pick and choose my spots because I don't know these people from Adam. And you don't want to basically make, because you're the youngest one sitting at the table. Also, you don't want to make yourself, be the annoying little young douchebag amongst all these older professionals, people that are there that are old enough to be your parents and some your grandparents. So you don't want to upset the apple cart in those types of environments. So you recognize people that you saw the other night. You shake hands, get a little bit more comfortable. It's a little bit more of a not saying saying at a restaurant isn't, but it's different when you're in that type of like that dinner party-esque atmosphere that's a little bit more looser to a certain extent comparing to talking, because you're dealing with wait staff and bus boys, and there's music playing in the background, and there's 50 other different people, within the building. So I'm talking, chopping it up. I talked to a guy whose son was born with a significant part of his brain missing. They said that he had no chance to live. Praise be to God, he's lived now. He's 30. I forget what specific age in his 30s, but he's in his 50s. And now has like a significant business deal with Rubik's Cube. And he was worked, I think, for USA 9, which is a CBS affiliate in DC, who's from Boston, from Massachusetts. So he talked about his Boston sports fandom, and gave me some advice, being young in this business, taking risk and knowing how to just go at it with everything you have and living without regret and just go for it is the words that he used. So met him, talked to another guy that worked locally in DC, and who at the crab feast he had the Nationals new City Connect cap on. So we talked about the difference between how the Nationals have been ran versus the Orioles, the difference between Nationals Park and Oriole Park, and blah blah blah. Introduced me to I think she was a news anchor, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember her name, but introduced me to a news anchor that used to work with him at that same DC station, but left. And I think because she intercepted the conversation. I'm still standing there sipping on my Chardonnay, just getting a feel for the room, ear hustling a little bit. She, I believe, is currently nominated for an Emmy, if I'm not mistaken. So I heard a little bit about that. She worked with the gentleman I was discussing about the Nationals, this, that, and the third. Trying to think anything else. Met an individual, talked to him last night because I went back to the hospitality suite Friday night after the crab feast to just to get a feel for everybody, maybe talk to some people I hadn't yet talked to before. And lo and behold, I talked to a gentleman by the name of Scott Wyckoff, who works for WBAL and also is the voice of Navy sports, baseball, and football especially. So I talked to him a little bit in the hospitality suite Friday night over, and you hockey fans will be proud of me for this one, over the first overtime of Edmonton and Florida with the Stanley Cup final on Friday night with two Miller Lights and a bucket full of popcorn included that I ran off for, thank God for youth and metabolism. So I talked to him Friday night and then saw him and talked to him again Saturday before the banquet and after, because he and his WBAL compatriots won a few first place awards and everything else. We share a common contact, if you will. My buddy Reese Early, shout out to him, who lived literally a hop, skip, and a jump 2-3 houses down the street from me for well over 15 years, give or take. Went to middle school with them, high school my first year there, my freshman year, his sophomore year. He actually was the one that shadowed me when I was looking for middle schools. I was in the 5th grade, and he was the one that was my I don't know how to put it, big brother, tour guide, whatever the hell you want to call it, so to speak. And lo and behold, the reason why they picked him to be my quote unquote campus big brother for the day is because that we were neighbors, and I didn't even know it at the time. So, and before he moved out, because he, has got a He's got a fiance and a newborn kid that's about 9 months old, I believe. So, but long and short of it, he ended up big time pitcher, a big time athlete. Pitched at our high school, and then went to college, went into the Navy, pitched for Navy, and I asked him, son, know who Reese Early is? Like, yeah, I know Reese. So we shared, talked a little bit about our familiar contact. But it was nice being in the room with a bunch of professionals. Met an individual who was the award winner of a scholarship, because they had like this scholarship recipient that they honored who just graduated from Howard University last month, who's from the Bay Area. I met her and her mother after the fact when the thing was over. That was it. So I'm sitting there, having a good time. I'm eating my food. I'm getting to the meat and potatoes of the story, no pun intended. So I said I knew I wasn't going to be long-winded, but lo and behold, 38 to 39 minutes into this damn thing, and we haven't discussed Aaron Rodgers or SGA, not one bit. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the program to see what line of what awards is coming up. He is closer and closer to my category, most outstanding sports feature. And I'm sitting there, and the anxiety and the nervousness and just the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and did I do enough here? Did I do enough there? Maybe I should have done. And you start questioning yourself and start questioning, going through every single move you did or did not make for your given piece that you were nominated for. And it comes up, and the way that they announced it is that they had two people that were up there announcing the winners, but they did it in a fashion where the second place winner got announced first, and the one that, the first place, the whole enchilada had the nice plaque, was announced second. So I'm sitting in my chair. So the table's like right here. But the speakers are behind me. So I'm sitting like this with the front of the room back this way. And imagine that the AJ Green fathead is the projector with the corresponding PowerPoint on it. And I'm sitting there crouched over like this, and I'm saying to myself, Lord, if please do not let my name be the first one that he being the great Robert Lang, who was a big time award winning broadcaster for WBAL AM radio here in Maryland, said, please don't let Mr. Lang read my name first. Please don't let the first syllable out of his name be J. I can't. Please don't let it happen. And lo and behold, calls my name first. My name gets flashed on the thing first. I don't walk away with first place, prize as the winner of the most outstanding. And I gotta be honest with you, in full transparency, I was pissed. I was pissed. I mean, I can only imagine what Jamar Chase felt like back in early February when he's sitting there at that theater in New Orleans, and here he's wins the Triple Crown for receiving in the NFL for like the third time in like the last God knows how many years, and without essentially a training camp. And he didn't. They gave it to Saquon Barkley, which, I mean, okay, but I can only imagine that, like, to much lesser extent, I can imagine how he felt when he did not get that award, or Lamar Jackson for that matter, when he didn't get MVP that same night, because I was pissed. I'm sitting there in my chair, and I literally could feel my blood pressure starting to rise. I could feel the veins in my neck starting to bulge. I could feel when you get real pissed off, sometimes your ears get real hot. You're steaming. I didn't, thank God, I got some decorum and some maturity about me. But if I wanted to live in my emotions, I literally could have gotten up, called my dad, said, pack your stuff, we're going home. By the time this night's over, that foot is going to hit the front door by 12:30 later on tonight, because I was through. I was through. I had enough of this podunk town. I did not win. I was finished. I had enough. I had enough. I said, all this and all this hype, all this anticipation, I make the sojourn down here and I only walk away I don't win. I mean, your ego's talking, it's pride, and it still bothers me. Now, time has passed. I have accepted my fate essentially. I've made peace with it. And I do, and I have brought it into perspective. And they let us know before the ceremony started that they had a bunch of people that were the qualifying, like judges, so to speak, for these awards that spanned all over the country. Some of whom that work in New York City, and there's no slouches, no has-beens, no want to be. No, this is as professional and as cream of the crop in terms of the Associated Press for it not being a national award as it can get. So I say, you know what? It still is recognition from the Associated Press. A decent amount of people with cachet and a legacy of their own in this business heard what I had to say and thought it was worthy enough for me to be, nominated for this award. You know what? Take this, take it. It says Chesapeake, Associated Press. Take it and just exit stage left, and you'll grind and you'll work and you'll hustle your ass off to make sure if the opportunity presents itself to win it, and I mean win it being in first place next year, you'll do everything you possibly can to walk away with it next year. So, no. It is a little, a sheet of paper, which, nice, cute. You guys know, I don't do nothing without putting my best foot forward and striving to be the absolute best at what I do, especially in this medium. So what? I'm a 20, then I was 22, now a 23-year-old college, journalism major. I'm not interested. So what? No one listens or watches this dopey podcast. So what? It's a small college radio station in Baltimore. I could care freaking less. I'm there to win, conquer, and to do it to the best of my abilities. I don't give a damn who stands in my path. When I found out that I didn't walk away with the winning the whole damn thing, being in first place, it pissed me off. And a little bit about, and a little bit, not a little bit, but a decent amount inside me is still pissed off about it. But I'm also have come to the realization, the acceptance that what I did, and in terms of me doing it literally my first year on the air at EAA, I can't be too down on myself. I can't be. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to myself personally to be over the top down on myself. So, take the victories as they come. But again, I was fitting to be tied Saturday night. Fitting to be tied. So anyway, that's your Ocean City recap. Anyway, let us begin with some sports talk, shall we, here on a Monday afternoon, early evening, depending on what time you're watching this program. Aaron Rodgers, he's a Pittsburgh Steeler. How I feel about that, just to shrug of the shoulders, to be quite honest with you, because I don't see how Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh changes anything in terms of the caliber of football team the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be in 2025. I just don't. And it's funny because going back to the weekend at Ocean City for the banquet right quick. So it's the EAA people, me, my buddy who's the audio engineer, and then Dr. K is the host of the show that he works on everything. So it's us two that's representing Morgan, and then the other half of the table is the people that make up of Voice of America. The gentleman that was sitting next to me, Kane Faribault, who walked away also with a first place honors. So congratulations and shout out to him and the people at Voice of America. He's sitting to my left, and towards the end of the night, we talked about political stuff and the presidency and all, real world issues, and how it relates to journalism to start. But towards the end of the night, we started talking sports. And this is a guy that is a season ticket holder of the Pittsburgh, lives in Illinois with his family, but is a native of Pittsburgh, so he's a Yinzer, and diehard, lifelong Pittsburgh Steelers fan and Steelers season ticket holder. And I asked him, I said, well, what do you think about the Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers? And he straight up sat up in his chair and said, I hate it. So, and this is Steelers season ticket holder that said this. Said, I hate this move. I hate it because in his point of reference now, he said that he doesn't think that Mike Tomlin, because we started talking about Tomlin a little bit, and he doesn't think that Mike Tomlin is as it should be held in such as high fault for the Steelers' failures as I do. But he came out originally on the Aaron Rodgers point and said, I hate this move because you essentially traded Justin Fields for Aaron Rodgers. And Justin Fields is younger, more mobile. At this point in time in his career, compared to Aaron Rodgers, has way more higher of an upside. And he also said bringing in Aaron Rodgers doesn't change anything because Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow are still the two best quarterbacks in the division that are light years better than any quarterback that the Pittsburgh Steelers have had dating back to the familiar years of Ben Roethlisberger. So I straight up asked him, before this weekend, I did not know this guy from Adam, so I am not making it up. Lifelong Pittsburgh Steelers fan, native of Pittsburgh, season ticket holder. What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? Swear to God, first words out of his mouth were, I hate it. I hate it. So if you're getting that from a pit, and it's not, he's not my age. This is a grown man, like in, ages 40, I'd say from the 45 to 53 age range. He fell I didn't ask how old he was, but he falls somewhere in that age demographic. Couldn't stand it. And honestly, I don't see why more Pittsburgh Steelers fans aren't in the same boat. I know a decent amount of them are, but you delusional Steelers fans out there that think that this is going to be some season-wrecking move bringing Aaron Rodgers in, you need your head examined, because Aaron Rodgers at 41 years of age, I understand it's another year removed from his Achilles injury, but we saw the Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets. He was awful. And you can sit up here and give me the stats and play Mr. Box Score game and reading off, his numbers weren't as bad as advertised and this, that, and the third. Listen, and throwing for the 300 yards is overblown and overrated. Here's my point. Did you watch Aaron Rodgers at any point in 2024 and said to yourself, that's the Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay days? I'm not talking about a specific throw in a game. I'm talking about for a literal complete game, quarters 1 through 4. Did you watch any game this year? The 2 games against Buffalo, the game against San Francisco. At any point, the game against the Patriots? Who cares? And that's, if you want to give me that, that's the one game. That's one game against the team that literally fired their coach. They were a glorified XFL team. So outside of the Patriot games, can you give me any game? San Francisco, the 2 Bills games, the Monday night game, and then a one in December that essentially didn't amount to anything. Can you find me a meaningful game? The game against Pittsburgh on Sunday night in October. Can you find me a game? Can you find me a game where you sat back and you watched Aaron Rodgers for 3 hours maneuver at the quarterback position and said to yourself, that's the MVP version that we saw 4 or 5 years ago with Green Bay? For a complete game, not for a drive, not for a quarter, not for a throw, not for a down, a whole game. And the answer to that obvious question is no. The answer to that question is no. And this is professional sports, quarterback position, National Football League. Outside of Tom Brady, name the quarterback in the history in the 6-7 year history of the National Football. Name me the quarterback, with Tom Brady being the outlier. Name me the quarterback that gets better the more he plays and the older he gets. especially coming off of significant injury below the waist. Peyton Manning played well after his neck surgery in Denver when he was, over the age of 35, 36 years of age, but that didn't last forever. Middle of the 2015 season, he was shot. Shot! He can always look back on a nice 3-year window, but, that evaporated. Evaporated quick. Name me the quarterback. And he is going to go play in the most blue-collar, hard-nosed, most physical division in all of the NFL, another year older, with an average at best roster to boot, with an uphill battle to climb against 2 out of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the league. Again, Lamar and Joe Burrow aren't the 2 best quarterbacks in their own division. Aren't just the 2 best quarterbacks in it. They're the 2 out of the best quarterbacks in all of football. The other top 5 quarterbacks, you got to go outside of the division in Mahomes, Allen, and Jalen Hurts. Top 5, top 6 quarterbacks in the National Football League, that division alone has 2 of them. And you got to play combined those cats 4 times in a season. Outside of going to Cincinnati, on grass in the cold. It's not the NFC North where you got the 2 games that's in the dome. Minnesota and Detroit. This is not the AFC East where you get to go to South Beach in the middle of the season. And then outside of that, play 2 doormats. No. You get 1 doormat, and that's the Browns. Bengals are no doormat. Ravens are no doormat. They got 2 of the top 4, top 5 best quarterbacks in the universe that are perennial Super Bowl contenders. The only way, honestly, it gets harder in any other division in football is by virtue of picking up and go playing in Mahomes' division in the AFC West. Quarterback in his 40s is going to play in cold weather, on the grass, in every single 4 of those cities. They essentially all play on the water. Bengal Stadium's right on the water. Cleveland plays right on the water. Pittsburgh plays right on the water. Baltimore plays right on the water. Going to 4 cold weather cities that play on the water, and including Pittsburgh, with 3 out of the 4 of them also being on grass. In his feast, in the same division with the Ravens defense, which is only going to get better, having them shed the dead weight of Stevens and the other bum, Marcus Williams, out of from their secondary last year. That was night and day in the second half of last season. Universe is better than it was in the first half of last season. That's only going to get better with it being Zach Orr's second year as defensive coordinator. And oh, by the way, you got to play this guy by the name of Myles Garrett twice a year. Forget the Bengals. That in and of itself, if I was Aaron Rodgers' shoes, would say, the hell I am taking my ass to Pittsburgh. I understand Pittsburgh's the only team that quote-unquote wanted him, but not even. He was their 3rd option. Remember, the Steelers originally wanted Matthew Stafford, and after that, they wanted to keep Justin Fields. This changes nothing. Oh, Pittsburgh. Oh, we're going to be watchable. Our games are going to be shown on prime time. Our games against the Jets and against and against the Packers. Oh, joyous day. Who cares? So what? You'll be plastered all over the national primetime stage. Big deal. You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big deal. Kane told me before the Kansas City Chiefs were big time in the Mahomes era when they were bad. Told me he went to a game, a Steelers Chiefs game at Arrowhead, and he was amazed how many terrible towels and Steelers fans he saw tailgating in the parking lot. Was amazed. Couldn't believe Kansas City, Missouri. Couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. His words, not mine. I'm not making it. His words. So who cares? The Steeler brand not winning anything. You by default still have the 3rd best quarterback in your division. It's Lamar, Burrow, big ass gap, everybody else. And until that gap truncates, Pittsburgh isn't going anywhere. Isn't going anywhere in terms of winning a division title. It isn't going anywhere in terms of being a perennial Super Bowl contending team coming out of the AFC as they were 10 years ago. It's just the way. I'm sorry if facts offend you, but you can't just go into every single season. Ooh, Steeler brand. Here we go. Steeler football, terrible towel. We're going Super Bowl. It's not. If you're living in the real world, that's not how this works. So congratulations. You might, if you're lucky, if Aaron Rodgers somehow has a third of a renaissance of a season somewhere buried in him, underneath all the ayahuasca and the conspiracy theories and all this other bullshit, somewhere deep in him, if he has a third of a resurgence left in him, you'll go what? 10-7, 9-8, make the playoffs again, backdooring your way in, because either some other team in the AFC stumbled on themselves, or by virtue of, 2025 participation trophy where 14 teams make the playoffs, you'll backdoor your way in, and then you get your ass curb stomped by either the Bills, the Chiefs, or the Ravens, or praise be to God, Lord willing, my Bengals on Wild Card Weekend. And they're going to be uncompetitive and going to be over by the time they begin the damn halftime report. And we hear the same old song and dance, whether it be from the guys that work at CBS, NBC, or whatever network their game's going to be, Amazon. We're going to hear the same old song and dance. All the Steelers have no pride. They can't tackle. They can't get off the field on third downs defensively. Their drives last essentially 2 minutes of real time. They can't move the ball down the field worth an inch. Their false starts, the penalties, there's no life. It's just the same broken record is going to get played on a loop over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And everyone's going to be all hunky-dory because the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't terrible. They somehow found a way to keep Mike Tomlin's asinine plus 500 streak alive as a head coach. Oh, I'm so sick of it. And people are like Aaron Rodgers is back and flame throwing and better than ever, playing at MVP level. All the while, the Ravens and the Bengals are going to be more interested and are going to be over here, busy winning 11 games minimum in the regular season, be neck and neck contending for the division, winning the winner getting the division title with an easier path to go to the Super Bowl, with both teams with Championship Sunday and Super Bowl Sunday on their mind. And it's going to be the same Pittsburgh Steelers nonsense over there in the other corner, going, running, putting all this energy in the hamster wheel, picking 17th in the draft. Again, 17th, 18th, 16th. In the same hamster wheel, thinking they're doing something when they're going nowhere. When their defense in the postseason against superior competition stinks, they can't stop the run. They get pantsed by superior quarterback play, whether it be Josh Allen in 2023, Jackson last year, Patrick Mahomes in 2020. I mean, we've been through this before. Same old song and dance. I'm telling you, the Steelers aren't going to like it. It's going to hurt like hell. It's going to sting and take a nice dent into their pride as a fan base and as an organization. But good Gandhi, y'all got to blow it up. TJ Watt wants his money, wants to be paid. You blow it. Your offensive line isn't as great as it used to be. You got to blow it up. We went through letting Ben Roethlisberger hang around too long, to the motley crew of misfit quarterbacks, to then thinking we can rejuvenate and revitalize Russell Wilson's career. That blew up in your face. So on a practice and insanity, doing the same damn thing with the quarterbacks about 5-6 years older than Russell Wilson, who's 24, less than that, months removed from a major surgery to an area on his leg. And this is a quarterback that for the longest time in the prime of his career, one of his greatest assets as an athlete and as a quarterback in this league was his impeccable footwork and mobility inside, outside the pocket when looking to throw and in the motion of throwing the football down the field. I as a Bengals fan, they can continue in this hamster wheel of insanity for the rest of my life. I am just fine over here. My thing objectively is like, when is enough enough? And I'm so, and I'm also, I can't take everyone's reasoning for the Pittsburgh Steelers being something worth a damn coming into every single season being, well, it's the Steelers and it's Mike Tomlin, and they're just going to go, have a plus 500 record and make the playoffs just because Steelers and Mike Tomlin equals good. I'm tired of that lazy analysis and hypotheses going into every single season too. Tired of it. Aaron Rodgers is washed, and Mike Tomlin's got to go. And that front office has done an abysmal job of putting that team together. And you can give me all the nice stats about defense, nobody cares about them holding the Falcons and the Ravens out of the end zone for 95% of a given 4-quarter regulation game. Nobody cares about the stats that the Steelers defense puts up in September and October and early November when they literally fall apart and are beyond pathetic in December and in January. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And yes, they got rid of the cancer that is George Pickens. DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers is going to be some great day at the beach. Those two explosive personalities, knowing how passive-aggressive and nonchalant and how just Aaron Rodgers can just be one of the more toxic teammates, either from the outsider's perspective or really at the root of the issue, inside, behind closed. I mean, it's a disaster waiting to happen. It's a disaster waiting to happen. It's going to be another firestorm, another 3-ring circus that Mike Tomlin's going to have to answer for and semi-attempt to clean up come at the earliest Veterans Day, the latest by Christmas. Literally, it's the same script of the same damn movie with the Pittsburgh Steelers for years. It's literally just a different cast of characters. Instead of it being George Pickens or Antonio Brown, it's going to be DK Metcalf. And instead of it being a Russell Wilson or a Ben Roethlisberger, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. It's the same story every single time, and it just befuddles me why those of y'all out there continue to fall for the dog and pony show. Terry Bradshaw's not coming through that door. He's not. I'm sorry. He's not. It's been a long time since Ben Roethlisberger played, and even longer time since he was last in his prime. What you do in that division is so finite if your quarterback cannot hold a candle to either Burrow and or Lamar Jackson. I understand having a great defense helps. I understand having a great kicking game helps and a good run game and everything. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to who wins a championship and who's sitting on their ass watching the Super Bowl, in large amounts of the time, it comes down to who is your QB1. Who's your QB1? If your quarterback does not have the name of Mahomes, Hurts, Stafford, Burrow, to a lesser extent, only because they haven't been there yet, Allen or Lamar Jackson, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. I don't know when you all are going to get it. I mean, this literally is two parties literally stuck on Planet Delusional, thinking it's still 2014, 2015 somewhere, and refuses to admit that their time has passed and their window of opportunity has slammed dead ass shut in their face. The Pittsburgh Steelers still think they're in a window where they can contend to win a Super Bowl, and Aaron Rodgers still thinks that he's a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League that can win a team, that can carry a team to a division title, a 1 seed with only having to be 2 wins away from a Super Bowl all by himself. And both of them are sadly and egregiously mistaken. Sadly mistaken. All it is just delaying the inevitable. Because unless Pittsburgh literally finds themselves in the Ravens' shoes where they're a competitive, watchable football team, and also in the midst of that lands their next franchise quarterback, which does not happen as often as one may think it does, the Ravens were able to luck out, and the Chiefs were able to luck out. Look at all the other teams. Philadelphia Eagles, they drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round. The Buffalo Bills had to be bad to get Josh Allen. The Cincinnati Bengals had to be the worst team in all of football to get Joe Burrow. Not all the time you can be the Chiefs or the Ravens and luck out in being, a team that makes the playoffs every single year, have a middle to late first round draft pick, and find your next quarterback for the next decade and a half in the process. Doesn't always work that way. And for the sake of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they'd be better off swallowing their pride, blowing it up, ripping it down to the studs, and getting back to rebuilding championship football teams the good old-fashioned way, the way that Chuck Noll's teams did 50-something years ago, instead of just kicking the can hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. And what could honestly be the most difficult age to get to a Super Bowl in terms of the deep level of quarterback play in one given conference in the history of the National Football League, at the very least in my lifetime. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar, Tier 2, Herbert, Bo Nix, CJ Stroud. It doesn't get any easier. Does not get any easier. So good luck with that, Pittsburgh. You're going to need it. In terms of the National Basketball Association and its championship finals, I get to game 2 in a moment. First off, let me just, because I didn't do a show Friday for you, give you my quick 2 cents on game 1. Tyrese Halliburton, man, he is something else. You want to talk about being built different, and some guys just being just head and shoulders above their competition. I tell you, I guarantee you, if those players that voted him most overrated player in the NBA would have a do-over, if you were able to grant them one, I'm pretty sure they would take it. Did you guys know this? Let me just read you this stat, and this will just show you how outrageous Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers have been all spring long. Ladies and gentlemen, they not just won, but on Thursday night, they won an NBA Finals game that they had led for a grand total of 0.3 seconds. I'm going to say that again. They won an NBA, not a regular season game in the middle of January. They won an NBA Finals game that they led a grand total of a third of a second of. The Oklahoma City Thunder led for 46 minutes and 25 seconds. That's unbelievable. That's inconceivable how great that is. And Tyrese Halliburton, who did not play a good game in game 1 by any stretch of the imagination, his ability to have the knack and the nose and the intuition for the great moment, for the series defining, for the game defining, for the game winning moment is something that, honestly, if you could compare him to his contemporaries, he wins an NBA championship. Why can't we come on here and say that he's better than CP3? He's better than James Harden's of the world, better than Russell Westbrook. I mean, if he's got one more of this up his sleeve in either Wednesday night or Friday night or next, if he finds a way to pull one or two more of these ridiculous, mind-numbing moments out of his bag, and the Pacers find a way to win the NBA championship, who's to say that we can't put Tyrese Halliburton? Now, greatest of all time, obviously, is a stretch, but compared to his contemporaries and the players that have played from the 2010s through the CP3s and the Westbrooks of the world and the James Hardens of the world, who's to say that we can't already engage in that debate, engage in that conversation? Because you can sit there and give me all the scoring titles and read off your box scores and give me the MVPs in Westbrook's case and Harden. You can read me all those awards to the cows come home. It's about what you do in this time of the year. It's what LeBron James does this time of the year that makes him why he's LeBron James. Kobe, God rest his soul. Bird, Jordan, Barkley, Shaq. Shall we call the roll? The great regular seasons are nice, It looks all nice and cute and prim and proper. You read the box score of here's what they did in the span of an 82 game regular season. Oh, that's nice. Oh, it's fine. It's fine. He averaged 24 and 10. Oh, yeah, it's fine. But what do you do during this time of the year is what matters the most. And when push comes to shove and there's an opportunity to take a game, take it with force, with pride, from the jaws of defeat. Tyrese Halliburton has stepped up in every single opportunity. You can't deny that. You cannot take that away from him. And for him, on a below average night in which he scored 14 points on only 13 shots and was 2 of 7 from the field, for him to not let that affect him, allow it to roll off his back, and to have the confidence. That's things you can't measure with a stat sheet. A guy's heart and his confidence level. Heart and confidence level. For him to have neither of those two things waver on him, despite having, for his standards, a poor shooting night for the first 47 minutes, and then he turns around and he does that, bad man. That's why that is heroics at the end of game 1 on Thursday night. Literally the reason why I said this series is going 7. 6 at the shortest, 7 ideally, because he and the Pacers are pulling shit. And my years watching NBA basketball, I've never seen. I understand it's finite because of how young I am. This is basketball insanity, what he's doing. Did it to Milwaukee, did it to Cleveland, did it to game 1 against New York in New York, did it game 1 in OKC against OKC in the finals. In the finals. We think, first round, second round, fine, cute. Conference finals, New York City, show me something. Show me something. And then he turns around 2 weeks later and does it in the in the NBA finals when the team going into the series, massive underdog against a team, number 1 seed in the Western Conference, best record in the Western Conference, 6 to 8 wins in the regular season, doesn't faze him. Oh, that's a win. Thank you. And snatches it. Snatches it with a good old fashioned mid-range jumper. Absolutely unbelievable. But if I did do a show on Friday and you were to ask me, well, Jai, outside of Tyrese Halliburton being from another planet, why did the Indiana Pacers win this game? I'll tell you this. First off, Oklahoma City allowed way too many rebounds and were just, especially in that fourth quarter, were taken to the cleaners a lot inside in the paint. You got to be able, there's no excuse. Chet Holmgren, who did nothing in game 1, he and Hartenstein cannot allow Indiana to just get punked in the paint like that. And they got punked in the paint rebounding. And the Pacers, in large part, rebounded themselves and layup themselves back into that game on Thursday night because of such a poor, lackluster presence underneath the basket in the paint from Oklahoma City. That's the first thing. Second thing, SGA was way too self-reliant offensively. He took 30 shots in game. And I understand he scored 38 points, but he took 30. Chet Holmgren took 9. Lou Dort took 10. Jalen Williams took 19. I mean, the second, 30 to 19 is a tremendous drop-off between two starters that played only a difference of 4 minutes more compared of each other side by side. What Jalen Williams played 36 minutes, SGA played 40, and yet SGA, I'm saying he's the MVP best player on the floor for Oklahoma City, but he took 11 more shots than Jalen Williams did. Chet took 9, Lou Dort took 10. That's he playing the selfish ISO basketball that got the Knicks in trouble in the previous round. You got to be able to spread the wealth and get everybody involved. When you make it easier on Indiana in terms of limiting your scoring options on the open floor, that plays right into their hands. And when you have SGA essentially being Mr. One-Man show and you don't switch up on it the moment they get hip to it, and you go into a nice, healthy scoring spell, which Oklahoma City did, which allowed Indiana to get on that nice run there late in the fourth quarter. This is what happens. You got to be able to distribute the wealth and get everybody involved and make sure that you put your quote unquote others in the best position to succeed. And SGA and Oklahoma City did a piss poor job of doing that on Thursday night, which allowed Indiana to work themselves back into the game, as we saw them do so many times against the Knicks in the previous series. That is the second thing. The third thing for Oklahoma City: defensive lapses due to laziness and inexecution. I mean, when you take a look on Halliburton's game-winning shot, Wallace has help when Halliburton's about to cross midcourt with SGA and Alex Caruso. All you got to do, palms on your feet, hands out, arms out, defensive position ready to guard. What does Wallace do? He bites. He plays press when he doesn't have to. He's running up court, running uphill when Halliburton is driving down the court, going downhill. Because at the time around when he got the inbound, it was about 6.5 seconds left to go in regulation. Halliburton is going downhill. Wallace is coming uphill, leaving him exposed, blown right by him. Halliburton obviously finds open spot in the floor near the far sideline. Defensive stance, none to be found. And he even has Alex Caruso on help when Halliburton's about to set up himself to hit the game winner. Boom, boom, boom. Jumper. Ball game. Can't happen. Defensive lapses due to laziness and execution and just unclutched championship basketball or lack thereof. SGA too reliant on himself offensively, and the rebounding was atrocious. And it's also in that game that the Pacers won, by the way, which they had 20 first half turnovers. You cannot blow that game. And when they hop on that plane from Indiana back to OKC for a game 5, they are going to think and remember long and hard about what went down in that fourth quarter on Thursday night. Because I don't care if they take both games, they split both games. This will stick in their craw until that Larry O'Brien is in their possession. Because based on how they played for a good 3/4 of that game 1 on Thursday night, on top of their 4 quarters of domination on Sunday night, last night, they should be 2-up in this series with an opportunity to sweep. But this series is still very much Indiana's to win, as it is Oklahoma City's, and it's still very much up in the air with it being tied at 1-1, interchanging cities, because of those 3 things that led to their game 1 demise on Thursday night. Now, in terms of what happened last night, Oklahoma City did a much better job of rebounding the basketball, comparatively speaking. They out-rebounded Oklahoma City, out-rebounded Indiana 43-35. They killed them offensively, rebounding them 7-11. So they did a much better job cleaning up the rebounds. They shot better comparatively from the field, 48% to 45%. From the free throw line also, it helped exponentially that they cleaned up in that area, 87% to 73%. So it just did a much better job, rebounded better. SGA did a better job of spreading the wealth and getting the others involved, which I mentioned was an absolute must and a mistake that he made in game 1 that he did not carry over to game 2. He scored 34 points, but scoring 34 points on 21 shots is a lot better than scoring 30-something points on 30-something shots. Now, granted, he did get to the free throw line about 12 times, but he did a much better job of facilitating this time around last night compared to game 1. On 21 shots, made 11 of them. Got Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren involved. Combined, they shot the basketball 25 times on the night, which was a nice sight to see. Had 8 assists. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for that matter, 5 rebounds and a block and 4 steals. He was all over the place. Had an absolute excellent game for Oklahoma City in Game 2, setting the stage here for Game 3. Game 3, if you're Indiana, hey, you got home court now. You were fortunate, and not to say that you lucked your way into winning Game 1. You did earn it, but when you go up against a team that when they're at their best, they can mop the floor with you and embarrass you in humiliating fashion, it's a huge positive to walk away from the first games of this series winning at least one game out of the 2 in their building. And throughout the course of the playoffs and throughout the course of this entire season, day back to October, that is no cakewalk to play. That building is no cakewalk to play in for a visiting opponent by any stretch of circumstances, and they did a good job finding a way to win at least one game to put themselves in a situation which, by some miracle, they take both games on their own home floor. They head back to Game 5 with an opportunity to win an NBA championship, and they, by virtue of giving themselves 3 opportunities, Game 5, 6, and 7, to win that last game to walk away NBA champions. But if they walk away with the split, it heads back to Game 5, 2-2, and it's anybody's series. Best win 2 out of 3 is your NBA champion. So I think with the Pacers having home floor in game number 3, they realize, hey, no comeback to basically bail ourselves out from our 45 to 46 minutes of incompetence. Now's the opportunity for us to reset, have another couple of days off. We've got the opportunity to sleep in our own beds, in our own hometown, amongst our fans. They're going to pack the building. It's going to be an absolute madhouse there at the Fieldhouse coming up on Wednesday and Friday night of this week. This is our opportunity. They won 1-1 in their house. We're going to try to do the same, defend home court. You strive to win both, but you at least want to walk away there with one, because if you at least win 1 out of 2 in your building, you know that going back to Game 5, your season's not going to be on the table in Game 5 coming up sometime next week. So you've got to find a way to win a game. And especially you want to win the first, you want to get that first home win out the way early, so you're not facing yourself and have to answer and play through the scenarios in your head heading into a Game 4 where, we're down 2-1. We lose this game, we head back to that place for Game 5, and all likelihood our season's over. And you start getting into your own head and playing the results before the games even happen. Rather, you go in, especially off that bad loss, you have 48 hours to think about it, to ponder it over, to flush it, to right the wrongs and fix the mistakes. You go in, you play your best brand of basketball. You make Chet Holmgren and you make Isaiah Hartenstein bully you inside in the paint. You make sure that Pascal Siakam has you get him involved, and you just make him a point of emphasis there offensively, and try to not let the entire offensive game plan rest on Tyrese Halliburton's shoulders, and you go into that game with your level of execution and level of focus heightened up an extra notch, because now you've gotten and received Oklahoma City's best punch thus far offensively, what they were able to produce in Game 2, and you go out with the intentions of winning this game by any means necessary. And that means you got to put foot on their neck and blow their asses out by early third quarter. If that happens, which I deem unlikely, so be it. And if that means you got to drag them down, grab them by the neck, and get them involved in a 48-minute white knuckler Donnybrook, you do that. Rick Carlisle's going to have his team raring to go. They're going to have them prepared. They're obviously going to be well rested now that some extra time has passed since the episode of insanity that was Game 1 on Thursday night. You have that, and then you got your ass kicked the following game. So all like the feel good, look at me, oh, I'm sexy and I know it type beat that the team either quietly or loudly was carrying themselves with in between Game 1 and 2. That's all gone now. New game. It's 2 games later. What have you done for me lately? Try to be the first team to get the second win of this series, and they should be in decent shape heading into Wednesday. In terms of the Knicks, since they didn't have an opportunity to discuss the firing of Tom Thibodeau, I got no problems with it. None whatsoever. You gotta look at it from the big picture, okay? The New York Knicks, and I said this even when but when I talked about the Orioles firing Brandon Hyde, which they did about a month ago. I said, even if you guys don't think that it's not his fault, it's the players you can't be this new to how professional sports operate. When teams don't play up to a certain standard, whether the fact they be playoff standards or standards in a regular season, eventually, especially if a given roster is going to be together for an X amount of time, whether they're young and they still got hella team control for the next X amount of years, or it's an expensive roster that they have put together through free agency and everything else, you can't fire 12 basketball players all at once, or 10, or 7, or 6, or 8. You can't do it in one whole off season. You just can't. It's unrealistic. That's not how the NBA works. In baseball, you can't uplift a 26-man roster. You just can't do it. Football, you can't uplift a 53-man roster in one lone off season or in the middle of a given season. You just can't do it. You can't do it. So what's the next best thing? If getting rid of the GM who put together teams out of the question, whether it's because of the fact they've done a good job in years past or because they just put the roster together. Now, they're not performing up to expectation, up to standard, but they're relatively still young and new and playing amongst one another. Again, whether they are the Orioles and they're all relatively young in the major league careers, they still got plenty of team control to be had before they hit the free agency market in about 5-6 years time, give or take. Or you're the New York Knicks, a bunch of guys that are going to be signed, still delivered for the next few seasons. Whichever end of the spectrum that it falls on, odds are the GM is not going to go anywhere initially. There are caveats and what's the word I'm looking for? Exceptions to the rule, but typically that's not always going to be the case. It's not always going to be the case. So who is the one that gets thrown to the wolves as the quote-unquote sacrificial lamb more often than not? The head coach in basketball or the manager in baseball. That's how it works. That's how it has always worked. It will forever work this way. Nothing has changed. It was like this 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 45, 50, 60, 75 years ago. This is how it works. I don't know if you guys out there are new to how certain status quos and certain standards of practices are in professional sports today, but that has not changed. And at least in my lifetime, it has always been that way, regardless of the sport. NBA, NFL, MLB, it's always been salary cap, no salary cap sport. It's always been that way. If in theory it's easier to replace the manager than it is to overhaul a roster, then guess who's going? Guess whose feet is hitting the pavement looking for a new job? It's always been that way. And the New York Knicks realize they're in a window of opportunity that could close dead in their face sooner than we may think and anticipate, with a bunch of guys that are signed for and under contract for the next handful of seasons with no first-round draft capital to speak of for a good hot minute. They realize their options and their methods of improving their basketball team are very limited in this championship contending window that they're in, that they have to capitalize on right now, especially while Brunson is still somewhat under a team-friendly contract. Not somewhat, he is under a team-friendly contract. in this current stages right now in 2025. They have to capitalize on it. And unless, not saying that they also will not, in addition to, do this, but if you had to pick, what's the more reasonable or least expensive method to improving your team? Firing a coach or trading whatever assets that you do have left remaining to bring in a Giannis Antetokounmpo, and maybe having to pluck a few guys off of your current team to get them in turn. Losing more assets to bring in Giannis, not saying it can't be worth it, but it will come at another additional expensive cost. Or do you eat the contract extension you just gave Tom Thibodeau, which has no direct correlation to the current salary cap and money pool that goes into paying the roster? What's the more easier and inexpensive route to improving your team? That's the first thing. Second thing, again, they're in a championship window. It's not going to be open forever. Salary cap, NBA, it's not going to be open forever. And their best method, they thought, to start their offseason was saying, hey, we thought, based on us beating Boston in 5 games and us we should have beaten, I told you guys, they had a window when I talked about whether or not the Knicks season was a success or a failure. I told you, this failure is in the fact that they had a window of opportunity to glide into not glide in terms of the games being easy, but glide in terms of there being a clear, realistic, logical path. They had an opportunity to glide into the NBA Finals once they took down Boston to advance to the conference finals. The path was there. Now, again, Indiana, it was not going to be easy. It was a 6-7 game series, as I thought going in. But in terms of the level of expectation and the realistic nature of that happening, it was as bright as this LED light that's flashing dead in my face. They had an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals for the first time in 25 years, and they blew it. And based on the fact that the Knicks blew a window of opportunity that opened up right before their very eyes in real time, in that aspect, if you're a Knicks fan, you can look at this season as a failure. And at the very least, the front office, Leon Rose and/or James Dolan, agreed with such, which is why Tom Thibodeau, going on a week now, is unemployed and is no longer the head coach of the New York Knickerbockers. Because I don't know these guys from Adam, but I guarantee if you were to ask them and interview them, their thought process and their thinking is probably very similar, if not exactly, what I just said. And that little finite realm of thinking, they had a window of opportunity to win the Eastern Conference Championship, and they came up small against a team that they had a good chance of beating had not they blown game 1. Again, if they don't blow game 1, they win game 1. Game 6, 2 Saturdays ago, all it is just a footnote in that series that would have led to a game 7 being played last Monday. It's all it could have been. They had a window of opportunity and they spoiled it. And based on that, everything else, in my eyes, you want to look at a coach? It's up for grabs. Tom Thibodeau's a good coach, basketball lifer, defensive coaching juggernaut. But let's not act like that the New York Knicks pushed Pat Riley out the door. He's not Pat Riley. Never has been, never will be. It's just the way that it is. No shade, no condemnation, but Tom Thibodeau was not Pat Riley. Again, we discussed it all playoffs long, especially against Indiana. His stubbornness to expand his rotation, with his rotations at various times not making a lick of sense. I read reports saying, he was very stubborn to adhere to the analytics, unwillingness to make adjustments, which we screamed and yelled about. We complained about, obviously, him running his players into the ground, not taking them out of 20 plus point blowouts up or down, running his guys thin during the regular season. This isn't anything that's new underneath the sun. We've known about this and have discussed this and yelled about this and have debated this when it's come to Thibodeau and specifically this New York Knicks team all season long and even all throughout their playoff run. I mean, we talked about his mistakes, adding for not having Brunson on the bench too long, waiting forever to sub him back in. We discussed this. We had problems with Thibodeau when the team was flat and got their asses kicked out of MSG in game 3, 4 weeks ago against 4 or 5 weeks ago against Boston in the second round. We discussed it when they gave away games against the Pistons. They were bad at home in the first round. We talked about it, obviously, in their losses against Indiana, highlighted by game 1. This isn't anything that's new that we've discussed with Thibodeau. The guy waits till his season is essentially on the brink to start playing with this starting lineup. When this is a guy that literally squeezes every single ounce out of the regular season from October to April, and he waits in an Eastern Conference Finals game for him to sauce it up and try something different. Come on. Again, not saying he's the worst coach in the NBA because he's not. But let's not make it seem like that the Knicks, left Pat Riley out to dry. I'm not going for that. I'm not going for that. They're trying something new. They're saying, hey, Tom Thibodeau, and historically it's been the case. I understand the last time the Chicago Bulls were consistently worth a damn, he was the head coach. But, he's the guy that gets held responsible in Chicago Bulls fandom of why Derrick Rose's career ended as tragically as it did. So it's not like that this guy, walking around with 3, 4, 5, 6 championships. He's a good head coach. He can bring rebuilding and or just disgraceful teams up from the abyss, make them respectable, make them a competitive regular season product to watch, make them a playoff team. If they're a piss poor defensive team, he can fix them defensively. He's a wizard at that. But Tom Thibodeau has met his ceiling as the head coach of the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are no longer the little feisty team from Manhattan that could. They have an expectation now to win. Now that they are there, they have the expectation to win an NBA championship. And I don't blame the Knicks for dishing out every single recipe that they have at their disposal that they believe can get them closer to winning an NBA championship. Now, the roster is flawed. Karl Anthony Towns, he's a good basketball player. I don't consider him a championship winning or championship caliber basketball player. Mikal Bridges is not far behind from that assessment as far as I'm concerned. Their bench is nowhere near as good as it was this year compared to the 23-24 campaign. They missed Dante DiVincenzo tremendously. They missed the physicality that Isaiah Hartenstein brought for them that clearly Karl Anthony Towns does not have. Mitchell Robinson does provide it, but he can't score. So don't get it twisted. It's just as much of a roster problem as it is a coaching problem. But free agency done open for another 4 weeks. The New York Knicks, if they're serious in the defense of them, they can't wait 4 weeks to come up with a game plan on how to put together a championship caliber roster. They wanted to strike while the iron is hot, while the wounds are still fresh, less than a week into their offseason. The draft's not for a good hot minute, and free agency doesn't open until the beginning of July. We literally just began the month of June. So I think it's the first full week of the no, it's not, because last Sunday was the first. But you get what I'm trying to say. The month of June literally just started. The season, not their season, but the NBA season is still going on. They can't wait. Oh, what we're going to do? What we're going to do? We're going to, twiddle our thumbs and but especially if it's a coach. If you have your heart set and you're hell bent on making a coaching change, as soon as you come up with that revelation, the quicker you make the move, the better off you're going to be. Longer window of opportunity for you to interview new candidates. Come on, people. It's professional sports operations 101. It's elementary. So I know a lot of people that did. Mad Dog thought it was a complete heinous, utter disgrace. Them treating Thibodeau. I mean, come on. They're gonna pay out the rest of his contract. Tom Thibodeau's not starving. They didn't. Come on. Does it sting? Does it hurt losing your job? I don't care how much money you make, what you do. Yes, it does. But come on. Tom Thibodeau he's not a Rick Carlisle. And he got out coached by Rick Carlisle hand over fist in this series, as we discussed. Yes, the roster is flawed. Yes, Jalen Brunson's too much of a ball hog who's a traffic cone on defense, who turns over the basketball way too much for my taste. We understand that. But it was a collaborative effort as to why the New York Knicks didn't win the Eastern Conference Championship. It wasn't just on the players. It wasn't just on Brunson. Tom Thibodeau had a large hand to play in this as well. People say, well, he came so close to winning the series. If he would want to say he still had a job. Yeah, that's how this works. You win championships. You get the team to the NBA Finals when no one preseason thought you were going to be there. Yeah, that's how it works. But you have a window of opportunity that either opens up preseason, in the regular season, or in the midst of a playoff run, and you fail to pounce on that opportunity. Sometimes it comes with consequences. It does. I'm sorry. It's sports. It's life. It's unfair. It's how it works. They had a window, and not a window, but a window in terms of this current team in this current season. They had a window and they blew it. And Tom Thibodeau and his coaching mistakes on top of the team just coming out just flat and lethargic and lazy and just no enthusiasm, no championship, just fire. All of that plays into account with this. All of it plays into account. It's not just the X's and O's. Look at the eye test. You saw how slow and how lethargic and just how the New York Knicks played. You saw it. We give them credit for the 20-point comebacks against Boston. You give them the blame when they blew the lead against Indiana in Game 1 and for the team coming out flat and deadheaded in their losses. Game 6, they were pathetic. Pathetic in Game 6. Outside of really the first quarter, they were pathetic. Somebody has to take some accountability for that. I understand the coaches in today's current NBA culture are too much made to be the sacrificial lamb, but sometimes you got to call a spade and call a thing a thing. Again, that loss a few Saturdays ago was just as much on Tom Thibodeau as it was on the players that took the floor that night. Look, it was a collective effort. But yet again, going back to my original point, what's easier to replace? 10 to 12 players or one head coach? And if Tom Thibodeau, no disrespect, but you got to be fair, if he has a championship as a head coach sitting on his mantle, maybe he's still coaching the team. But when you consider that he has had a track record of doing this with the various teams that he's coached throughout his NBA career, he gives himself no insurance policy to lean back on. Because he can say, well, hold on. If you just give me one more year, one, and then one more year turns into another one more year when the next season doesn't pan out, and then you're still stuck in the same hamster wheel. When you take a look, and he went through this with Chicago and couldn't get it done, and Minnesota couldn't get. I mean, no shade, no disrespect. Thibodeau can coach. He'll get another job again, and he'll do another bang-up, sensational job at resurrecting a downtrodden franchise. But that's what he is. You know what he is? He's basketball's Buck Showalter. That's what he is. He's basketball's Buck Showalter. He can bring a team up from the abyss, instill a pride, instill a tradition and a standard of excellence that raises the team's standards and raises the team's play, gets them back to respectability, gets them back to the playoffs, can even win you a playoff round or two. But once it comes time where you're talking about championship, whether it be league/conference and or the whole enchilada, that's where that ceiling is met. It's just the way that it goes sometimes. It's the way that it goes. He had to go. He does a better coaching job. We can whittle the series down to if a few made free throws here and if Halliburton's basket there in game one. We can. It's more nuanced than it's a little deeper than that. We can try to overanalyze and kind of overplay it and over what's the word I'm looking oversimplify the things that went wrong in terms of the actual plays in that series for the Knicks. But they didn't lose in 7. They lost in 6. If they lost in 7, I give it to you. They lost in 7 because Halliburton makes a game-winning jumper from the mid-court logo. I grant you. But they lost in 6. And one reason why they lost in 6 is because of he and his team's meltdown at the end of the game. Not just in Nesmith going off, not just with Halliburton's game-tying buzzer beater, but also the over. It's the nature of the beast, people. He'll find another job again, but he's not going to. If the Knicks have the expectation, I at least give them credit for trying. Because they're saying, listen, in order for us to be great, like the line that Vince Wilfork said in The Man in the Arena that I've recited a few times, you can't be great at something without taking an exponential risk that could come back to bite you in the ass. You can't be great without taking a leap of faith and doing something that people are going to question because of how risky and dangerous it is. It's not how it works. Not how it works in life. That's not how it works in professional sports. And I give the Knicks for taking a leap of faith and going out there and trying something and seeing if they can bring another coach in. Now, who that next coach may be, I'm not quite sure. Already we've heard that Jay Wright and Ime Udoka are out in terms of being the options for the Knicks to go to be their next head coach. Dan Hurley obviously is not going to be an option either. I mean, it literally looks like to me, it looks like that they're probably, in my estimation, they're probably going to tap Michael Malone to be their next head coach. That's what it feels like. And also, too, if the Knicks didn't at least have a semi-concrete, solid idea of who the next coach was going to be, I understand it's the Knicks, but they would not go out there and fire Thibodeau literally less a week into their offseason if they did not have somewhat of a concrete idea of who they would like to bring in to be their next head coach. I think, in my estimation, it's going to, be Michael Malone. That's what I think it's going to be. Nothing personal against Thibs, but it was time. He met his ceiling. And he, again, played just as much of a hand in the Knicks going home as Towns, as Brunson, as Bridges. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. But again, it's easier to replace the coach than it is to replace either a singular player making a hefty wage or an entire, or if not most of an entire team roster. It's the way it's always been. It will forever be that way, especially in the NBA. And finally, Major League Baseball. Few things. First off, the Braves and the Phillies equally are in free fall. The Braves have lost 8 out of their last 10, 7 losses in a row. The Phillies have lost 9 out of their last 10, losers of 5 in a row, and just got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yep. First off, the Atlanta Braves. They're inventing new ways to lose games. They blew on Thursday afternoon. You guys know they had a 99.9% chance of winning their game against the Arizona Diamondbacks on Thursday afternoon to close out their homestand. Did you guys know that? 99.9% chance of winning that game heading into the top of the 9th inning, up 7 runs in the 9th. They lost 11-10. 7 runs in the 9th. They begin a 6-game road trip, 3 in San Francisco, 3 this week in Milwaukee before they return home to play the Rockies and the Mets next week. That'll be a picnic. They play the San Francisco Giants Friday night. That game goes to extra innings. I'm watching the game Friday night, coming back from the crab feast in my hotel room. And the Giants had a caught stealing, got picked off twice, and their left fielder by the name of Eloy Ramos dropped a line out that hit him right in his mitt. So he had an error, caught stealing, 2 pickoffs. And I tweeted, forget what time it was, but I tweeted, this is, in the frame of either between the 6th or the 8th inning, in that window, in between the 6th and the 8th inning Friday night, I tweeted, either the Giants don't deserve to win this game or the Giants don't want to win this game. I had it on my iPad, told you guys long day, I fell asleep on the game. So I fell asleep on the game not knowing who won or lost. And when I woke up and checked the scores on the baseball scores on my phone when I got up Saturday morning and saw that the Giants found a way to win that game via a wild pitch, I'm saying whatever can go wrong will go wrong for the Atlanta Braves. So they lose those games in gut-wrenching fashion. And then Saturday comes along, and then it just takes the cake. Matt Chapman with a walk-off homer to win the series and beat the Braves by the final score of 3-2. So you have a 7-run collapse in the ninth. You lose the game on a wild pitch when the Giants did everything in their power to literally gift you a consolation prize victory on Friday night. A Matt Chapman walk-off on Saturday, and then Sunday, another 1-run loss, 4-3. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and good sweep to Milwaukee. When it rains, it pours. Their bullpen has been abysmal. They, for some weird reason, signed Craig Kimbrell, brought him up from Trey, had a clean inning to work with on Friday, only to turn around and DFA him, which made no sense. Their bullpen's a complete mess. They signed Scott Blewett off the scrap heap. He had a rough outing during that collapse in the 9th inning the other night, but for the most part has been a solid pitcher for him. Matter of fact, let me pull up his ERA here quickly just as a reference point. Has pitched to an ERA. The Orioles just got him right back within the last 24 to 48 hours. Pitching to a 3.67 ERA in 27 innings worth of work, 26 strikeouts. Yes, in his inning and a third, gave up 5 runs on 3 hits and 2 walks. But for the most part, pretty solid in Atlanta Blue. They DFA him, let him go. They bring in Kimbrell, clean inning Friday. After they signed him, he was unemployed, signed him, sent him to the minors, brought him back up. 1 game, 1 outing in San Francisco, and now he's back on the streets again. Their bullpen's a mess. Brian Snitker has lost I don't know whether he's lost the locker room, but he sure as hell has lost the Atlanta Braves fan base. They have not been good in 1-run games. I mean, just take a look. I mean, they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive 1-run games. Last Wednesday on the 4th, they lost 2-1 because they just could not muster up any offense whatsoever. 10-11, 5-4, 3-2, 4-3 on Sunday. They have not been good as of late in 1-run games. Their offense has been just anemic, and when they did produce again on Thursday, their bullpen imploded in the 9th. Everything has gone wrong for the Atlanta Braves. You can't blame it on injuries like you could last year. It's just the team is just not any good. They're not hitting. The team's approaches have been absolutely abysmal, and they can't hold leads. They can't hold leads, and they can't hold ties late into a game. So when you can't hit and your bullpen is atrocious, They're damn near right back where they started, being 27-37, 10 games under 500, and now 14 games back behind the Mets for the East Division. In terms of the wild card, they are 9.5 back of the Philadelphia Phillies for the third and final wild card spot in the National League postseason picture. And then, speaking of the Phillies, let's talk about them for a minute. They're 37-28. They've, again, lost 9 out of the last 10, 5-game losing streak. They can't get out of their own way either. Trey Turner, who's been able to hit this season, defensive liability at shortstop. They don't have a left fielder. Bryce Harper is going to miss God knows how much time with his recent injury. And they just got absolutely dominated by a team they should have swept 9 times a Tuesday. And in large part, and especially if you go back to their series loss against Toronto, they can't hit. Back-to-back one-run performances against the Blue Jays last Wednesday and Thursday. 1 run on Saturday against Pittsburgh, and albeit, yes, they went up against the great Paul Skeens yesterday on Sunday. They couldn't generate any offense off of he or Ashcraft, the reliever that came in and got the win. They're not hitting. They're not hitting at all. You take a look up and down this lineup. Bryson Stott, 0 for 4. He's hitting .239 for the season. You take a look at Brandon Marsh, who's giving you nothing. He's hitting .216 on the year. Max Kepler, who's done absolutely nothing. Again, they got no left fielder to speak of. Hitting .208 with an OPS of .660, went 0 for 3 on Sunday afternoon. Nick Castellanos has obviously been a great soldier for him, but he couldn't muster up any offense. 0 for 3 yesterday, albeit he's in .282 on the season. They're not getting anything. If Kyle Schwarber and Nick aren't hitting the ball out the ballpark, they're very substandard offense. Very substandard, very non-threatening, and no Bryce Harper, it makes it even worse. So they're not hitting whatsoever either. And their bullpen also isn't any good. Aaron Nola hasn't pitched up to what should be the standard so far this season. Jesus Luzardo's pitching to a 4.46 ERA. Joe Ross is pitching to a 4.35 ERA, who started their game on, Friday night. Their starting pitching hasn't helped, which was the strength of this team. And if all else fails, was their solid rock they were going to lean on to carry this team during the doldrums of the 162. Now they're finding cracks in that foundation with their rotation. So their rotation, they're finding cracks. And again, who knows when we're going to see Bryce Harper again. It feels like that we're not going to see him before the All-Star break at the earliest, if you want to forecast his return. We're not going to see Bryce Harper for the next handful of weeks. Both teams, man, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. And we thought with the Phillies having a nice little stretch there in the month of May, making life a little interesting for the New York Metropolitans. Mets have won 8 out of the last 10, 3-game win streak. They swept the Rockies. Pete Alonso is just hitting the cover off the ball in the last week. We might be right back to having those conversations we had in April with the Mets running away and hiding with the NL East, because the Phillies and the Braves are in self-destruction mode. The Nationals, 5 games under 500, are rebuilding, obviously, this year, and the Miami Marlins are a glorified AAA baseball team. This division is dog water. Dog water. It's so bad. Anything else? The Yankees can't find a way to beat their rivals. I tell you, for those of y'all that love to stick up for Aaron Boone and can give me the years finishing above 500 and making the playoffs and finding a way to win 90 games in your sleep outside of 2023, notwithstanding, you can give me that all the cows come home. But outside of the obvious playoff shortcomings, I tell you, he's got some significant flaws and holes on his playoff resume, on his regular season resume as Yankee manager in the last 3, 4, going on 5 years, I say, since the turn of the new decade, that he's got to be able to account for. First off, you got to be able to beat your rivals. You got to be able to beat the Mets, and you got to be able to beat the Red Sox. If you can't handle business against those two teams in the regular season, if George Steinbrenner was alive, he'd fire your ass on the spot. The fact that the New York Yankees continuously get punked by Alex Cora and the Boston Red Sox on it feels like a year in, year out basis is something, if you're a Yankee fan, it's got to keep you up at night because it's the same cycle over and over again. Different players, it's still the same result. Whether it's Schwarber and Bogarts with Kike Hernandez or Mookie Betts, or even when Mookie Betts, or this group with Duran and Devers and Casas and Campbell and Rafaela, it's the result's still the same. Alex Cora's been the manager there for a hot minute. The results are still the same. Regular season, postseason, the 2018 ALDS, the 2021 wildcard game, it never ends. It never ends. Yankees continuously, either on the road or in their own building, they get punked like clockwork by the Red Sox. And outside of those years in 21 and 18, the Boston Red Sox are not that good. They're an average at best baseball team. That's essentially what they've been since they won the World Series in 2018. Outside of 2021, and they've been an average baseball team. You wouldn't know it every single time they walk into the Bronx or they welcome the Yankees into Fenway and they put belt to ass. They knock their starting pitching and their bullpen out of the ballpark. And outside of Aaron Judge doing his thing, he hit 2 home runs last night, they can't hit a lick. This weekend notwithstanding, they did an excellent job of, now granted, the Red Sox starting pitching and also their bullpen isn't that good this season especially. So, you give the Yankee bats a break. They did put up 7 runs last night and 7 runs on Saturday. They continue to fight. And then the lone win they got on Friday, put up 9. So their offense did do their part in all fairness. But I'm talking about collectively speaking, dating back and going back into last year and the year before that and the year before that. They continuously get punked by the Red Sox. Continuously. Boone gets outmanaged in circles by Alex Cora, who's had a rough season. Thus far, I don't get it. Losing a series at home to the Red Sox when they've been in free fall for the last 2 weeks, who currently are looking up at the Yankees 8.5 games back, I should say, who are now 3 games under 5. That's unacceptable, especially in the aftermath when the Yankees went to Dodger Stadium for the first time since the World Series last fall, and they lost the series to the Dodgers. Why? Because they couldn't get anybody out. And Betts and Ohtani and Freeman is just knocking the Yankees starting pitching and bullpen all over the field. And the Yankees are yet again caught with their pants and their drawers down at the ankles, ambushed, like they didn't know what was coming from a big-time marquee series that for regular season baseball is everything. If you can't beat your longtime historical cross-country, cross-league, interleague rival in the Dodgers, who beat you in the World Series last year, who right now is the current gold standard in the sport, and then your longtime rival Boston Red Sox, what are we doing? So you can't beat the Red Sox, you can't beat the Dodgers. Who else can't they beat? They also can't beat the whippersnapper, young juggernaut upcoming team in the division not named the Boston Red Sox, whether that be the Rays in 2020 and in 2021 and all those years early on in the decade, and since 22-23, this year notwithstanding because they're not that good, but even then you can't say that because Yankees lost the series to the Orioles early on this season. So whether it's the Rays in the first 3 years of the decade or the Orioles in the last 3 current years of this decade, the Yankees can't find their way around the up-and-coming young team within the AL East that's always foaming at the mouth to give them a hard time. So Tampa / the Orioles plus the Red Sox plus the Dodgers, and then also, by the way, the Houston Astros. Again, I understand it's regular season. But you build your building blocks towards the postseason based on what you do in the regular season. You want to win a World Series, you got to find a way to beat the Dodgers. You want to win a division, you got to find a way to beat up on the Red Sox. And the few years previous, 23, 24, top of my head, the Royals were able to beat the Red Sox like a drum. Like a drum. Won a World Series, got to find a way to beat the LA Dodgers. And then a team that's been in the Yankees cross since 2017, dating back to Girardi's last year, Houston Astros. As of late, the Yankees have been able to kind of, throw some haymakers, but in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of too little too late because they've had their handful of opportunities in the regular season and in October when the Houston Astros were at their peak level of dominance and the Yankees came up crashing and failing every single time. It's only now they're starting to make up for lost time now that the Houston Astros aren't as dominant and aren't as good of a championship caliber baseball team now as they were 3, 4, 5 years ago. But that's a problem that's an Aaron Boone problem. If you build a team that's good enough to win 90-something games and to beat up on certain opponents in the still game and they can't translate it to other opponents, I'm sorry. That's not necessarily a GM thing. That's an Aaron Boone thing, if you ask me. Because their inability to beat their two National League rivals in the Dodgers and the Mets, their historical out-of-division rival in the Astros, and then the two teams in the division always give them fits, the Red Sox and Rays/Orioles. It's a trend. It's not a minor coincidence. It's become a trend at this, and that's something that Aaron Boone and the Yankee brass has got to take some accountability for, because it's got to stop. That and choosing, predetermining guys' off days, the inconsistent lineup cards. I mean, he goes out there and he farts around with his dopey bullpen. I mean, he was absolutely pathetic in terms of his bullpen mismanagement this weekend. I mean, he left Carlos Rodon in way, way, way too long and let the game get out of hand before allowing himself an opportunity to nip the Red Sox rally in the bud. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. It's just, I mean, bringing in Ian Hamilton in a one-run game in the ninth inning the other night. What are we doing? But yet again, what is this? Year number 8. I think it's year 8 for him. Managing with Aaron Boone, Yankee baseball under his umbrella. Under my umbrella, hey. Par for the course, man. Par for the course. Anyway, that's another episode of the Amatella Catalias podcast in the books. Like what you heard, new to the show, please don't hesitate to subscribe. Talk to you guys on Friday. Be blessed, be safe, be well, peace.